Thank you, Tom. Oof, what a moment. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Thomas, for the invitation. Thank you, Stanford. I'm very pleased to be in front of many friends and people that I admire. Well, we lost the signal. Okay. So, let's do this. This is it. Wikitype is the result of a research I made to obtain the master's degree in critical theory. And during my research, I discovered several things that I tried to put in this presentation. The starting point, I'm going to talk in a few slides about what for me was one of the most important discoveries, and that for me was a breakthrough to understand classification. And the starting point for me to do this research is because I've been teaching type design or typographic or editorial design in schools in Mexico through many years. And in 2019, I think, when we were in the beginning or in the middle of the COVID pandemic, Type made this announcement that it was time to ditch the box classification system. And I found this was a problem because students, no matter in what generation we are, they always have problems to choose and to use typographies. So this was one of the reasons why I started digging into this research that I called Wikitype, and now you will see why. First of all, I would like to thank all these institutions for the support I have had since I've been working on this project. I have to say that I've been working alone. I mean, they have been very kind with me to offer me spaces or advice. Apparently, the image is clipped. Let me see if I can fix it. Oops. It has to do, yeah, that's it. So, thank you. All the presentation is made with typed together fonts. And well, this is the first slide. I need to do a deep research in Western typography history because I needed to understand some highlights in the history of type design or type history that I marked here in red. I highlighted in red events that might be considered as typographic revolutions because they brought deep consequences in type design and production, from Gutenberg, the Industrial Revolution, digital typography, and now artificial intelligence. That may there have been many typefaces that have traveled with us several centuries, like Gothic types or Garamond or Bembo, just to mention a few. In their journey, their designs have been adapted according to new technologies. This is what I call typography legacy. This is important because this is kind of a soul that certain typographies have and that make them become classics, even today in the 21st century. I will come back to this idea further on. Now we are here in 2025. And as we can see, the green line is more or less 4.5 centuries. This is the metal type technology, lasted for 4.5 centuries, 4.5 centuries. And digital type is quite new. In 1973 it started, and then the evolution comes up to now. So this is very new. I mean, it's less than a century that digital typefaces exist among us. And we're now heading to the future with artificial intelligence. I was quite interested in the origin of the Roman typeface, the first Roman typeface. So I needed to study the origin of the first Roman typeface, and I learned that if it's typography, it comes from writing. And this is a very important issue when studying no matter what typography made for no matter what language. Because if it exists even in a digital form, someone had to invent it or use it for the first time. It comes from writing. So this image shows the instructions to execute the Carolingian calligraphy that I would use as a model to create the first Roman face in movable type. Here we can appreciate the proportions given by the broad-nib pen, the angle of writing, and the ductus. We all know what are these terms. Okay. Here, this is a very simple example of how calligraphy evolved into the first Roman typeface. That for the example is the latest version is Adobe Jensen by Robert Slimbach in 1996. 1996, sorry, 1996. Well, I needed to study writing with a theory of Jerry Northside. He developed his theory of writing in the book The Stroke, where he explains in our Western culture that there are three kinds of movements that defines the shape of the letters. As we all know, translation with a broad nib pen, expansion with a pointed nib pen, and rotation. This last movement makes more sense. This last movement makes more sense if we take a look the way Shodo, the Japanese calligraphy, is taught. I am a practitioner of Shodo. In Shodo, we use a pointed round brush, and the effect of rotation and pressure creates a very distinctive shapes, like this one. This is something that we only find in this kind of writing. We don't find it in Western writing because the broad nib pen or the pen is very stiff. So even if we rotate it, nothing happens. We're probably going to tear the paper. With this example, I made a parallel between Western and Eastern culture to conclude that the root typography is writing in all cultures, and that all typefaces can be analyzed from this angle. This is what gives humanist shapes. So if it's typography, it comes from writing, and animals don't write, so it has come from humans. When we build typefaces using modules, this is, not writing, constructing like Legos or like blocks. This gives a very artificial expression to the design. And this can also be perceived through analyzing the typeface. While the pandemics, I was very amazed because it was one of the times where many programs about type design emerged because people had time. So we needed to do something to kill the boredom of being closed and locked down in our houses. So I remember that in those days there were many rare typefaces that started to appear, and I was very intrigued of how or why they started to make these kind of shapes. And my conclusion is that they didn't come from writing, they came from the vector culture. So if there's no writing, the shape is artificial. Sorry, if there's no writing, yeah, I did right. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. The shape is artificial. So what is Wikitype? It's a collaborative multilingual classification system. It gives a scheme. The classification scheme is a diagram that is a visual argument. This diagram allows us to understand the historical lineage. This is how much time this typeface exists with us. This is important when choosing a typeface, a correct typeface, for no matter what project. The technological weight and recommended usage. This is how complex is technologically these typefaces. It creates a data bank of information about typography, designers, type foundries, historic information, and geographical location. Here, this is an international crowd talking about typography. It provides a professional understanding of type terms. I'm very happy to see that the creator of type, how is it called? Type? Words of Type? Is here because I've been following her work since she published it. And the theoretical framework comes, of course, Jerry Northside, Maximilian Vox, and Will Hill, who launched the concept of legacy that is important to keep in mind. Of course, Catherine Dixon, because she made a very documented and very interesting project about precise type descriptions, not using folksonomy. And I realized that it's more a marketing issue that worse, that maybe is reaching out, that sometimes, I mean, marketing strategies sometimes make confusion into users, and when we want to choose a typeface, we want to choose a typeface because of its professional quality. And of course, a research about that made the Parsons Journal of Information a study in naming frequency. So Wikitype uses a 5-axis system. It is that typographic, in other ways, is a semantic field where typography takes place. One important conclusion is that typography is intersectional. It is crossed by many other things. It's not only technology, it's also history, it's also community, it also has to do with it also has to do with generations. It's very complex, as you can see. And there is a core of accepted typographic archetypes that we cannot just throw away. This is a timeline where we can see that with all the information that we have up to now in typography, we can make an upgrade. Maybe, who knows, maybe in less than a century or in a century, artificial intelligence is going to be technology that will become old. We cannot know that precisely, but we can make a prediction of what will be the next typefaces that the world will need in the future. But we are starting our way in artificial intelligence. Now we are in the present, and the present is here now with you. This is the system. It looks complex because you are seeing a complete system open, but the way it works is very intuitive, and I will show you now. Here. That's it. So Wikitype is a prototype. This is, it doesn't exist still, and this is why I'm making this demonstration. It's like a website where you can have the latest classification of typographies added. As you can see, they're very strange. They're very quirky with very strange forms. Someone in the last talk said if there were new names for new shapes, I think that there should be new names for new shapes because it is part of the evolution of a classification system, no matter what. But we have to get to an agreement with that. And as a website, it works as a platform like any other. You can subscribe, and when you subscribe, you create an account. But you have 3 kinds of account. You can be a student, you can be a professional, or you can be an editor. This comes from the principle of Wikimedia. And this is, you can become, if you are an editor, you have the credentials to edit, to create, or to build knowledge available to everyone. This is part of I think that the way technology has to be used today. And once you create your account, you go inside. You have this tab that explains how it works. This is all what I've been telling you up to now. Of course, this is just a demonstration. It's very simple. There is a part of definitions, words of type, for instance. This is very simple, but this gives you an idea of what I want to say. The most important thing is the font gallery. And here you find all kinds of typefaces that are already classified. How do these works? Okay. Let's suppose that I need a typeface on Cyrillic, okay, that needs to be used in text. I want a text typeface in Cyrillic, and of course I want it to use the digital technology of OpenType. And the sources, this is if it's sans serif or serif. Here I named it endings because there are many shapes that are beyond serif or sans serif. This is something else. And we get Atala Cyrillic. Then I click here. And we have a pattern, a visual diagram that explains the technology legacy, the technology in which the typeface is produced today, which are the scripts that it covers, what are the sources, like endings, and what those history category belongs. And this is transitional. There is a description of the design of the typeface, of the history of the design of the typeface. But maybe you are overwhelmed by the diagram. You can see it as pills also. You can see it in a very simpler way. You can see it very easy. You can add it to a project. I like this typeface. I want to add it to my playlist of typographies, like Spotify or Apple Music. And then you can have a collection of typefaces. We can also, let me find out, okay, here. Sorry. We can also share it. Hey, look, the typeface that I found. This is the best typeface I'm going to use for my project. And, well, this is part of social media, so why not do this? If people show the coffee that they are drinking in the morning, why do not share the typefaces that we like? Of course, there is a part for statistics. Here we can see which countries are producing the most. Of course, this is a demo, but it might be interesting that when this site exists online, maybe we can see who is making more production in typography or design and why or where or even what gender they have. And of course, there's a part that provides a lot of information about topics that are important. This is made by the community. This is maybe someone here wants to add an entry to the blog, so he or she needs to become an editor in order to add this information. And what else? Another one. This is important. Wikitype also classifies this kind of writing because at the end, this is writing. But this is not a Latin writing. It belongs to other because there are many, as we saw with Manuel. I wanted to put Manuel's typeface here, but it arrived late. I wanted to put it here. And there are instructions to classify it because this is epigraphic, as we saw in his presentation. This was written in stone. So if it comes from epigraphic, it's a sans serif or a lineal. It's a grotesque because of its shape, the digital shape. The version is open type. And I haven't talked about these patterns part, but mostly it is many of the terms that are used in the type cooker platform to learn to draw. It's very precise, it's very concrete. It talks about slant, it talks about width and spread and things, very precise about typography, and it works with sources. So this was manual because it was made by hand, and this is calligraphic because it has a technique. So what else? Wikitype. I think we are finishing now. So thank you. These are my handles. If you have any questions, I will be very glad to hear them.